This morning, a friend of mine sent me an email. It was a collection of jokes that he was forwarding to me, and it was the kinds of jokes that say, oh, women always do this and men always do that. Really had a sexist tone to it, a really chauvinistic attitude, unstated, but certainly implied in that collection of jokes. And so without thinking much, I just quickly replied with the statement saying, a great way to keep these stereotypes alive. And I sent that off. And then a little while later, I was thinking, wait a minute, that was really sarcastic. That was really also judgmental and critical of him. And if I had just taken a moment to think about maybe a more appropriate reply that would also get the message across that I didn't want to get that kind of email, why, it would have been less hurtful. And it's not that I don't know that sarcasm is hurtful, because I certainly do. But that was an example of the kind of unconscious choice that I often make and that each of us often make. All day long, we make hundreds and hundreds of choices. And most of those choices are just spontaneous. We don't think about them consciously and make conscious choices. The focus of my show today is going to be on choices, how we can make them more conscious, and the real value and power in that. So the topic today is your life. It's all a matter of choice. And the name of this show is Living Wisdom. I'm Patty Paul. One of the higher truths that many of us are aware of these days is how each of us truly does create our own reality. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Everything in our personal reality and even on the world stage, everything we create out of our beliefs and attitudes, thoughts and feelings, and choices and decisions. Each of us is a being with multi-levels of consciousness. Levels of consciousness that exist way beyond the physical world that we live in. Science has proven over and over again in the field of quantum physics that our world truly is an illusion made up of molecules that are constantly moving, subatomic particles, waves of energy, constantly moving. When we focus our attention on our reality, that's when all of those moving particles stand still, or seem to. It's what makes matter seem like it's solid. But under a microscope, it's not solid at all. So there is a great opportunity, if one is inclined to take more responsibility for creating reality, there's a great opportunity to change what isn't working in your life and make it into a more positive reality for yourself. One of those ways, one of those powerful ways, is by making new choices. By making choices more conscious, more often, and making new choices as the situation calls for. So the first step in taking responsibility for creating your reality and creating a new reality very well could be to be more mindful as the day goes on about the opportunities for making different choices, and then thinking about the impact that you really want to have on somebody or on the world, instead of the subconscious impact that you could have, which usually is negative, by making spontaneous unconscious choices. Now, we always have the power of choice. We can always take that responsibility. And indeed, every human being is first and foremost a spiritual being who chose, there's that word again, who consciously chose to have a physical life in the physical world for the purpose of learning more about ourselves, each and every one of us. Also, to learn more about what it is to be a human being. And we get that kind of information by looking around us, by looking at the people in our lives and seeing what they're reflecting back to us about what it is to be a human being. And often it's easier to recognize what's going on with other people and to, as I did this morning in my email, to just judge them or criticize them or respond inappropriately. That somehow seems to be easier because we've gotten so used to that than actually seeing those people as reflections of parts of ourselves that we have denied. This is an extremely complex subject because human beings are complex. The physical world is complex. So in this short half an hour show, I can only certainly scratch the surface of this important topic. But I hope to give you enough of an idea to at least give you some new thoughts, some new perceptions, or perhaps some new avenues that you might want to explore. I wrote a book a few years ago called A New Spirituality Beyond Religion. And in my book, I talk with, or I address with greater detail some of the things that I'll be talking about to you today. My book is available in libraries and other places. But there are also many other books written on this subject of reality creation, many books on choices and how to make different choices. But the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today, I have learned from some extremely wise, extremely loving, unconditionally loving teachers. And that's why I'm so enthusiastic about sharing the information that I have, because it really comes from these sources that I respect as being higher sources of information. So what I have also learned is that in our endeavor on our spiritual path, which we're all engaged in, we who have chosen to be physical, before we come into a physical lifetime, we make additional choices about some of the things we want to learn about ourselves. Specifically, we have a list, each one of us, a list of 7 focuses for each lifetime. And we chose those ourselves. It's not some higher power that makes those choices, because that higher power, that creator that we have, unlike the ones that have been written about in the texts of various organized religions, the higher power, the creator that we have, which I understand to be Goddess, God, all that is, they, like any wise and loving parent, want their children, their offspring, which we all are, to find out on our own, to be independent in that way, free and independent, to find out on our own. The fact that we have multiple lifetimes, hundreds if not thousands of lifetimes, means that we can make mistakes, which we all do, and we can learn from them. We either make mistakes during the lifetime and learn from them, or if we haven't learned and changed and grown within a particular physical lifetime, when we leave the lifetime, we don't die, only our body dies. We move to a higher level, so to speak, a higher level of consciousness. And that's when we have an opportunity to review our life and to review perhaps some of the the bad choices, or let's say the more limiting choices that we had made throughout our lifetime. And we can learn from that on any level. So that's how it works. Getting back to the 7 focuses that we each choose for ourselves before we enter any lifetime. The first 2 are the same for each of us. To learn how to consciously create success and to learn how to have fun. Consciously, that's the operative word. Consciously create success. What I'm talking about today, about making conscious choices, that's part of consciously creating success. The other 5 focuses that we have are individually selected. For instance, we might choose to learn how to be more trusting of ourselves, more trusting of other people. We might learn how to love in a deeper, broader way, how to love ourselves more, how to love other people more. You can't have one without the other. First comes a deeper understanding of self-love, and then comes the ability to love other people more. So there are numerous focuses that we might have. Our own unique combination is the selection that we have chosen for ourselves. As we come into the lifetime, of course, after we're born, we forget. We go through what is called that veil of forgetfulness, and when we are born, we're born as an infant starting a new life. But of course, before the life began, we weren't children on that higher level. We were fully developed in that level of consciousness that we were. And so it's like starting over from square one in a sense when we're born. And we do forget what our focuses were. As this works out, however, our life provides us clues, one after another, clues about the things that we chose to focus on in the lifetime. Another of the choices that we make before we come into a physical lifetime is, this is a co-creative situation where we and other beings choose in a way of cooperation, mutual cooperation, choose who will be our close relationships in the upcoming lifetime. For instance, those who are to be parents and those who are to be their offspring before the physical lifetime come together and make that choice, because those who are to be the parents have their own issues that they'll want to be focusing on. The offspring have certain issues. And so coming together in the physical lifetime, there is an environment created in that nuclear family space where each of the parties gets a chance to work on their issues. And those issues, as I say, even though they're forgotten, they can become apparent over time. Situations of martyrhood, situations of abandonment, betrayal, situations of sacrifice, also beautiful situations of love and unconditional love and trust and support and compassion. All of those energies can be present or not in the family environment, certainly in relationships as we grow in our lifetime. We meet new people and on our life's path, And often those who are our significant relationships, male or female, throughout our life, those also were by pre-agreement before the lifetime. So you see how important choice has always been, and the impact of choices is something to be considered too. Throughout our day, we have an opportunity of making choices based on love or choices that arise from fear. When we make subconscious choices, spontaneous choices like mine that I gave as an example in the opening, the kind of impact that that has, also it takes a conscious choice to be responsible for that. I'm happy that I did take responsibility for the impact. I regretted having made the original choice, but that's the second step, is when we make a choice that we wish had been different, we can always take responsibility for any choice we've made. And after we understand the impact that it had, then we can, by changing, first we can forgive ourselves for having made that choice, for having had that impact. We can forgive ourselves. And sometimes we need help forgiving ourselves, because sometimes the choices we've made are quite detrimental to ourselves and to others. And again, in my book, A New Spirituality Beyond Religion, I more fully discuss how the forgiveness process can really help shift this energy, and how we can ask for help in forgiving ourselves. God and Goddess have already forgiven us. Our higher selves have already forgiven us, so it's not about begging and pleading others to forgive us. What I'm talking about is forgiving ourselves, and sometimes it's the hardest thing to do, because in our world we've often gotten the message that we are too weak, too evil, too bad and wrong to forgive ourselves, and only a higher authority has the right to forgive us. Well, we each have a choice about what we want to believe, and there are those who have chosen to believe such harsh messages. But I know that there is a higher truth than that, and the higher truth that I know is that it's important to forgive ourselves, and always to have compassion and love for ourselves. And from that, we can easily make new choices that change ourselves, change the direction of our lives, certainly change our relationships with people. So there, again, to be conscious about the opportunities for choice. Our world and humanity, complex as we are, there are paradoxically some rather simple primary principles in our world. We could say, for instance, that the world is made up of winners and losers. Oh, I know that in our world it's commonly believed that victims and others who consider themselves losers are at the mercy of some higher power, some person who has power over them, or a collection of people who has power over them. But the truth is that when we start taking back our own power by making a choice not to be a victim, making a choice not to be at the mercy of other people, we can shift ourselves then into the winner side of the equation here. So again, whether we're winners or losers, whether we're victims or not victims, that is a matter of choice as well. Now, this is a very delicate subject. It's a very also complex subject to investigate, and that's why it would require a further explanation to understand how what seems to be not a choice of being a victim ultimately was. I would say that in our physical world, the only people who are truly victims are children who don't have the capacity for taking responsibility for creating their reality. Or obviously mentally deficient people who don't have in the physical world the capacity to take responsibility and make new choices. So let me make that clear. There are victims who, while they're still physical, don't have the opportunity to change their life or themselves because of a lack of capacity. But even on the higher levels of understanding, the more expanded awareness, to understand that before each of us comes into a lifetime again, we do make choices about the significant events in our life, and there is often a higher purpose to learn something. So I would say this, that those who truly are victims in the physical world without the ability to take responsibility and change in the physical world, to have that they did make that choice before entering the physical world. And sometimes we make very painful choices, very harsh choices before we come in. So that as the physical experience unfolds, why we have harsh and painful realities. But again, we each have a multitude of lifetimes from which to learn. In the physical world, we have time and space. And that's a wonderful thing because it gives us an opportunity to make those mistakes and to learn from them. There's no such thing as failure if you learn from your mistake and change, use that failure to learn about yourself and to change. And then obviously make new choices so that you don't repeat the mistake. Likewise, in any physical lifetime, after you've left it, you can look back and see what you didn't, that you would like to change and that you could do differently the next time around. So there's always opportunity. And on those higher realms, beyond the physical world, there is no time and space. So paradoxically again, a lifetime is valuable. Each human life is so precious, so valuable. But in the grand scheme of things, it only lasts for a second. When you're beyond the realm of time and space on the higher levels. So there are many paradoxes in our reality, and understanding those is important too. Again, the name of my book, A New Spirituality Beyond Religion, and it's available in the library, as are many other books that can help you improve your life, can help you find those 7 focuses that you chose for your life. Life is so much more than hard work and struggle and trying to make ends meet until finally you get to be 65 or 68 or 70 so you can retire and then maybe go fishing twice a year with your 6-pack of beer. Life is so much more than that. Each person has high purposes that they chose for their life. And the adventure of life is to find out by allowing the feedback, allowing the whispers and messages that life gives you along the way, allowing that to tell you what your focuses were. After you've fulfilled some of your focuses, as you become aware of them, then you choose new focuses, new goals for yourself. It doesn't mean that after you've reached your 7 focuses, then you might as well die because there's nothing else to do. Heavens no. It's about finding new and more lofty goals for yourself. Keeping in mind that you are on your spiritual path and making choices that are for your highest good. That would be the bottom line guideline, I would say, for the choices that one makes. As they come up through the day, as you become conscious of them, ask yourself, which choice would be for my highest good with harm to none? That's a simple guideline, and it works beautifully well. So again, to remember that you truly can be far more powerful than perhaps you even considered, that you are not at the mercy of governments or who won the last election or the latest power outage in California. When you understand that you have co-created that reality for the purpose of getting messages back. And I hope that I've given you some new thoughts, and I want to thank you for your attention today and to say goodbye until the next time.